A lady's husband was missing, and so she went to an astrologer hoping to get an answer. And just as the astrologer actually came to her house for consultation, she was drawing water from a well, and at that point the rope snapped. The astrologer, seeing what had happened, told her, "I'm sorry to tell you, that's bad omen. It means your husband is dead, he's not going to come back, because the snapping of the rope is so symbolic. It means your tali, your Mangal Sutra is cut." Now, like most cases, when we get bad news, we like to go for a second opinion. So this lady went to a second astrologer for another opinion and narrated all that had happened. So the second astrologer said, "You mean the rope cut exactly at that point? Your husband's coming back, he's alive. You are soon going to be reunited with him." And she was perplexed. She said, "This is diametrically opposite what the earlier astrologer told me. How do you qualify this?" And he said, "Look, when the bucket went into the well to draw water, the water from the well was separated and came into the water, it came into the bucket. And when the rope cut, the water separated from the bucket in the well, rejoined the well. That means your husband is going to be reunited with you." Now, ladies and gentlemen, two astrologers, two predictions, same set of facts. And this is something that really plagues the medical profession as well. We all go for second opinions. I remember very vividly, legal eagle Mr. K. Parasaran, former Attorney General of India, giving us a beautiful example. He said a person went to a guru and said, "Can I smoke when I pray?" The guru was flabbergasted. He said, "What nonsense." But then he turned the question around and said, "Okay, can I pray when I smoke?" He said, "Yes, of course, you can pray. Whatever you're doing, you can pray." So this hair splitting underscores our topic today on whether there's a fine line that separates advertising from awareness. Now, this webinar itself, one might ask, is this webinar an advertisement or is it to create awareness? I'll answer that question in the course of my test to make sure that you don't slip away for lunch. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to dovetail two guaranteed fundamental rights under the Constitution: freedom of speech and expression under Article 19(1)(a) and freedom to practice any profession, trade or occupation under Article 19(1)(g), with reasonable restrictions which are enshrined in the Constitution under Articles 19(2) and Articles 19(6). What are these reasonable restrictions? These reasonable restrictions are in the form of a code of conduct and guidelines. One, there is the Medical Council of India's Professional Conduct, Etiquette and Ethics Regulations 2002, last updated, if I'm not mistaken, in 2016. Then you have the Drug and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisements Act 1954. And thirdly, you have the Advertising Standards Council of India Code, ASCI, as it's called in common parlance. Now, broadly, I'll take you through what the Code of Ethics actually underscore. There are a few important do's and don'ts. What are the do's? I mean, this is what the Code of Ethics has. Doctors must display their registration number. I see that happening in all cases. Their recognized degrees, and intimate to the patients or attenders their fees in advance. I don't know how feasible this is today. A formal announcement in the press regarding starting of practice, on change of type of practice, on changing address, on temporary absence from duty, on resumption of another practice, on succeeding to another practice, and public declaration of charges. Please note, doctors, you also have an implied permission to breathe. That also is difficult today in COVID times with the masks on. Then you have the don'ts. The first important don't is soliciting of patient, and this pretty much applies to all professions, including my profession, the legal profession. Soliciting of patients directly or indirectly by a physician or by a group of physicians or by an institutions or organizations is banned. So that's a definite no-no. Then you have, and this is tricky, advertising or publicity through any mode that invites attention to a doctor's professional skill, qualification, achievements, attainments, specialties, appointments, associations, affiliations, honors, that would ordinarily result in self-aggrandizement. Self-aggrandizement, this is the term that is used. But when I went through these, this code, I often wondered as to whether, people go to a doctor based on their accomplishments. So what is wrong in a doctor not flaunting, but making it known in the public realm that he or she has these qualifications or these skills or these accomplishments? I don't see that as advertising, definitely not as self-aggrandizement. What exactly is self-aggrandizement according to the code? The code defines it as printing of photographs or any other publicity material in letterheads or signboards. I don't think this is happening, at least in India. But corporate hospital jacket ads, very often we see in our newspapers those ads, hospital wants to, there's poaching everywhere, like big hospitals can also poach doctors, leading doctors. So these corporate hospital jacket ads and specialists joining them may actually fall under one of the do's of formal announcements, if you look at it strictly. Then another don't, secret remedies, use of touts, a claim to be a specialist without a recognized qualification. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the distinction between advertising and awareness, in my opinion, lies in three simple tests in the form of questions. 1. Is it for the benefit of the patient or the doctor or hospital? Is it sober and unobtrusive, or is it loud and in your face? Does it promote health and wellness, or does it only boost the practice of the doctor or admission in hospitals? If you answer these three tests, I think you will get your reply as to whether something is an advertisement or awareness. What, ladies and gentlemen, is the ground reality today? We've all seen billboards outside hospitals that claim to have 24/7 emergency care units. So when we drive past these places, these advertisements get etched in our memory. And in an emergency, we end up rushing there with a legitimate belief, the promise of round-the-clock care by super specialists or specialists. Now what if, to your chagrin, post-admission, you realize that there are no specialists, for instance, no cardiologists, but only cardiologists on shifts certain hours a day. They are available on call, of course. What happens to that crucial life and death golden hour in the case of a heart attack? Is it fair for a hospital to leave such critical patients under the care of a duty doctor, in many cases not senior enough, till the specialist on call arrives? I mean, these are questions that an average patient will have, and I'm echoing those fears. What is the average time taken for the concerned specialist to arrive at the hospital? Again, this is not a hypothetical scenario, friends. It's a frightening reality in many hospitals, whose glib advertisements betray many a slip between the claim and the practice. Now, what is this ASCI? A lot of people are not very familiar with ASCI, the Advertising Standards Council of India. In fact, the Supreme Court in Common Cause versus Union of India had referred to ASCI. It's a non-statutory tribunal that was set up in 1985 and doing amazing work. Incorporated under Section 25 of the Companies Act 1956, the country's advertisement watchdog recently found that a third of objectionable commercials pertain to healthcare. Let me repeat that. ASCI found that a third of objectionable commercials in the country pertain to healthcare. Now that glib hospital advertisement that I cited is a clear violation of Section 1.4 of the ASCI code, as they mislead consumers, they exaggerate, they distort facts. Further, they would attract Section 1.5 of the code, as there is an element of abuse of trust, as well as a ploy to exploit their lack of experience or knowledge, leading to grave or widespread disappointment in the minds of consumers. Now we have seen dental clinics, most of us when we go for our dental checkups or to fill cavities or for a root canal therapy, we've seen these albums kept there, photographs of patients before and after treatment. Right? In such cases, whether published in a journal or in a form shared with the others, the consent of the patients, if their identity can be deciphered, is mandatory, as per Section 7.17 of the Code of Conduct. Moreover, today we all know that after the Justice Puttasamy judgment of the Supreme Court, privacy is a fundamental right. So that's something that you have to keep in mind always when it comes to sharing. Of course, it doesn't obviously pertain to urologists, but doctors in general, dentists in this case. Another form of advertisements that should come under the scanner are these so-called package deals in hospitals. They remind me of the combo effects of, I should be saying this at lunchtime, biryani, fried chicken and soft drinks at food courts. Some of these advertisements even appear on big screens during the intermission in theatres, and they could actually be covered under Section 6.1 of the Medical Code of Ethics, because there must be a distinction between awareness and self-aggrandizement. An actor turned politician recently mentioned to me that when her family member had died in a leading corporate hospital, the billing counter offered a comprehensive deal that included workers to even blow the conch at the funeral procession. What have we come to? Then there are quacks who promise wonder remedies for many a disease considered incurable, and gullible patients fall prey to such advertisements. Section 5 of the Drugs and Magic Remedies Objectionable Advertisements Act 1954 will automatically kick in if medical practitioners take any part in the publication of any advertisement referring to any magic remedy which directly or indirectly claims to be efficacious. Now, registered medical practitioners are also prohibited from prescribing secret remedies under section 6.5 of the medical code. So if a doctor practicing, for instance, allopathy prescribes Ayurvedic medicines, it is a moot point as to whether this provision will come in the way. The certain categories of advertisements like no cure, no payment, or guaranteed cure, all these, in my opinion, militate against the Code of Ethics and the Magic Remedies Statute. Ladies and gentlemen, health hinges on awareness, and this can be created by doctors only if they are not hamstrung by archaic restrictions or what may be interpreted and often demonized as publicity. I don't know why we demonize publicity in our country. There's actually nothing wrong really with publicity to get the word out. This era of telemedicine, Skype consultations, the webinars, this program, in my opinion, is within the realm of awareness. Although I feel it could have been, the title could have been tweaked somewhat little instead of calling it marketing, because the moment you use the word marketing, people's antenna goes up. And social media interface, many laws and regulations need to be updated. These regulations need to be in sync with the changing times we live in. For instance, a real doctor recommending a healthy breakfast and exercise will carry far more credibility than a model doing that. Doctors are lifesavers and almost worshipped by patients, and rightly so. However, the onus of calling out unethical practices is on the vast majority of good doctors. It's in fact your duty to expose unethical conduct. It's clearly enshrined in section 1.7 of your Code of Ethics. The men in white, you must heal and also wheel out the black sheep. But having said that, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm being suitably brief here because I know your stomachs must be rumbling given the time constraints. Your best advertisement, your most credible brand ambassadors, your most powerful testimony is a satisfied patient. Thank you very much. I've finished a little ahead of my time in order to give you a little extra leeway for interaction. Thank you.